What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today it is going to be a 3-round mock draft with trades. This is going to be split up into 2 different days. If you guys are new to the show, I got round 1, day 1, just like the real NFL draft on day 1. And the next day we're doing rounds 2 and 3. If you think that a video that has 3 rounds with actual analysis and trades can be done in 40-something minutes, or probably 50, God only knows how much I'm going to yap this episode, then you should be clicking on different videos. So make sure to be able to like, comment, subscribe so you guys get to watch the full thing. But below my face is my board. It's going to piss you off, and that's okay. What I owe you is honesty, not to make you happy. And that's what I give you guys. I watch all these players in all 22. Apart from Miller Moss, I have a video out on every single one of them, or at least they were a part of a video. So you can feel free to check my thoughts out there. There have been some movements, and the easiest way to keep track of those movements before I drop another video with another ranking is to follow me on Twitter. That's going to be in that link tree. It's simple. 2 clicks gets you anywhere you want to go. Click on the link tree, then you click on where you want to go. Also take advantage of those sponsors. UnderDog Fantasy is a great company. If you guys follow me over on Twitter as well, I end up posting my bets there. I like to use them. Maybe that's an issue, but I luckily do it within my own means, and you should too. But if you use that top link in the link tree, use the sign up, you get to up to 1,000 bonus cash for free. And right now is the best time to do it because they're continuing to give like profit boosts. Right now they gave me something until the end of the day. If I lose, I get my money back. That sounds sick. So do it now because that's when they're trying to run these promos to get you in there. And it does send me $60, but honestly, I do it because I actually care about the company. I don't need $60 from you, but at the same time, I would never say no. Let's get right into this, though. This is going to be a live video. Yes, I know that's a long intro, but at the same time, I was in the mood for some massive exposition. At number 1 overall, Carolina Panthers are sitting here, and the question is, how many teams want a QB? Because I think there's 2 solid top QBs in this class. I do. And they're not the 2 top QBs that you think. It's kind of surprising, huh? I just caught you off guard right there. It's going to be the guy that you see below my face, Miller Moss, and it's going to be Cam Ward. So the question is, how many teams here at the top are looking for a QB? The crazy thing is, it's not many of them. I think Carolina could be in the market for one. That's a hot take, but I do think that they're one that might want to try it out on day 2 rather than day 1 this year. But this could be the spot where Miller Moss could be the first overall pick. I want to put that out there. I want to wait another week. We're going to be doing this every week. I want to wait an extra week before I really pull the trigger on a quarterback high for the Panthers. Bryce could have a breakthrough. I don't think it's going to happen, but it'll transition from a 3rd or a 2nd round QB to a 1st with the 1st overall pick. It's a big difference. So I'm going to say the Panthers pass on a QB for the time being. The teams that I think are going to be in the market for a quarterback, I know for a fact the Giants are going to be going after one. I know for a fact the Raiders should be at least looking very heavily at one. I know for a fact that the next best team that needs one, probably the Browns, but they're stuck in cap hell. So you can't really be paying another quarterback another 5 in, I think at this point, making way more than $5 million a year at the number 1 overall pick. So it's not that much competition. That being said, the Raiders could jump the Giants, or the Giants could just say, screw it. It's a shorter range trade. I think this one might end up costing maybe a future 1st in order to do this. But the Giants are a quarterback away from being outside the top 10 at the very minimum, if not trying to make a playoff push. We all know Daniel Jones is making that big of a negative impact. I do think the Raiders could have incentive to jump the Giants. However, I think it's in the best interest of the Panthers to make this trade. And I know that you could try to trade the 1st and the 2nd round pick. Why are we not able to do 2026 round picks yet? Hello? What the hell? All right, PFF. Thank you for stealing my money and not allowing me to use it properly. I have my issues with PFF. I love the people who work there, but I got to admit, sometimes I do not see some of the logic. But it might be 2 1s to get here. It might just be a 1, a 2, and a 2, for example, rather than having to do a 1-1, because that's a pretty pricey move up from 3 to 1. You know what, Giants fans, I don't think that there's too many issues to the point where you're desperate for that second pick, but I also think that Miller Moss at number 3, as much as I love him as a 1-year starter, I think I'd rather take the guy. I'd rather use the 2nd round pick. Maybe we could end up getting like 102 back, so maybe we could use it as a trade compensation, but feel free to mess around with that as much as you want. But the Giants are going to be moving up for a quarterback, and this guy's been on a massive ascension. It's not going to be Carson Beck. I do like Carson Beck. My thing is he's a high floor quarterback. This team absolutely could use that boost of a floor with some form of a ceiling. I think that's perfectly reasonable. But the quarterback I'm thinking of is Cam Ward. It's going to piss people off. I know. I understand. I think Miller Moss technically is a better quarterback than Cam Ward, but they're completely different styles of quarterback. Miller Moss is more of that sniper with the arm, even though he has some good mobility, but he's still working as a processor. He's only started 3 games. But Cam Ward is someone who's very seasoned, and his processor has gotten better and better and better. And the good news is that even when he ended up struggling earlier on, he has that resiliency to him that I really, really love. Cam Ward's the number 1 overall pick. At pick number 2 for the Denver Broncos, I would try to trade out of this spot, but there just is going to be no takers at this point. I think the best thing you can do is just get your best return on investment, and that's to get the best player in the draft, and that's Will Johnson here at number 2. Patrick Surtain needs his number 2, and Will Johnson is unbelievable. You just paid Pat Surtain, have the best corner duo in the NFL. I mean, I would almost say indisputably if Will Johnson's as good as I think he is, but you could at least at the very minimum say arguably the best cornerback duo in the NFL there with Will Johnson. At pick number 3 for the Panthers, we traded back, got that extra second round pick. We ended up giving up a 4th in that equation, which maybe that's the case, maybe it's not, but I don't think there's going to be too much writing on that. I did think that I would actually love the Raiders theoretically to move up to 1 and then get Cam Ward. I think that would be a smart move for the Raiders. So for those of y'all saying Giants could have sat there and waited, you bet your ass I would have ended up moving up with the Raiders. So with Carolina sitting here at number 3 overall, I think the proper move for them is to probably address corner or edge. Technically, you could look at offensive line, but they actually didn't do too bad of a job. You look at the statistics, they didn't do a bad job. So I'm going to be looking at edge here. I'm going to try to change it up a little bit. Nick Skoureton's a beast. I really, really like this guy. He brings size, physicality, but also polish to the table. If he can stay healthy all year, and if he can produce at Texas A&M, which nobody's able to do for some reason, then this is somebody that could be a massive asset to your team. And I love the fact that he'll also count as someone who could be an asset in the run game because he brings that size and physicality. So you get your extra second round pick, and then you get Nick Skoureton. And at number 4 for the New England Patriots, I'm going to be boring as hell. I've done this pick a lot of times. I support this pick every time that it is made. Now, deep down, I want to go Ben Morrison here. Like, y'all know that I always go offensive tackle for the Patriots. Like, Will Campbell's my selection. Like, we all know this. I'm 95% sure I'm going to select Will Campbell. At the same time, it's like, I just know the tackles in round 2 are going to be ass. I just know it. We got to do what we got to do. And Will Campbell's going to be our guy. It kills me because I want to go after a different route sometimes in some of these mock drafts. And you might just say, Alex, stop doing mock drafts for as often as you do. And I'm like, but they're fun. They're fun, man. They're fun. But for certain teams, I do like to change it up a little bit. This instance, I just can't see that being a thing unless Caden Wallace starts proving more and more. He only had 1 pass blocking rep this past week, 16 run blocking reps, but for me, I like to see pass blocking proficiency more than anything. So I'm hoping that ends up coming to fruition and we get to some more clarity with that as time goes on. And number 5 for the Washington Commanders, corner number 2 is going to be key for me. I think that their secondary is absolute cheeks. I think their defense, apart from Bobby Wagner, the defensive interior as well. But for the most part, this defense needs a lot of help. And it sucks, honestly. I know Bobby made his decision willingly, but it sucks to see a linebacker like Bobby Wagner, who's a Hall of Famer, who's playing at such a high level on a team that is right now. Oh, by the way, guys, I should have mentioned this earlier. This is reverse Super Bowl odds at the moment, so keep that in mind. So at pick number 5, though, I'm going to go Ben Morrison. Their corner 2 situation, not good. I know that, Ben Morrison isn't the biggest fella on planet Earth, 6 foot, about 190 pounds. Is he 195 yet? I mean, I know that these stats get inflated. No, he's at 190. He was at 188, but he's now at 190 pounds. Not the biggest guy on planet Earth, far from being too small. But he's definitely going to be somebody who is an asset there for Washington in a secondary that really needs it. At pick number 6 for the Las Vegas Raiders, quarterback is the way that I'm going to push. And I already talked about my top 2. I mean, I like Carson Beck. It would not be a bad move for the Raiders to go Carson Beck. I am not a Shedeur Sanders guy. I ended up reevaluating him, and I put all of the perceived biases aside. By the way, I was actually in favor of Shedeur Sanders far more significantly than anybody who wants to call me a racist would like to say. You could just check the tape. I have a full YouTube album that is just like, it's all out there, guys. Go check out my way too early 2024 quarterbacks list. He was my number 5 quarterback before he ever took a snap at Colorado. So for those of y'all who want to drop that R card, you can shut the fuck up. But I love you guys who don't do that. You guys, I mean, obviously there's a couple idiots in the world, and that's okay. You know what? It makes us appreciate the good people like you even more. Miller Moss is going to be my selection here. He is in his first year really starting. At the same time, Lane Kiffin has proven to develop number 1 overall picks. Granted, you could debate as to whether they've been as talented in the NFL level as they are at college. I think they have been on a relatively consistent basis. I mean, Baker's making a resurgence. Kyler's still talented as all get out. I mean, and Caleb. We're going to see him do well. I think Miller Moss is next. And I seriously debated taking him number 1 with that New York trade up. It would be a genuine thought process there. He's my number 11 player in the class. I think he's phenomenal. And, I just really love what his especially hitting the honey hole. If you guys don't know what the honey hole is, it's in cover 2. There's a space between the flat defender and the deep half. There's just that slight little spot where you can kind of fit in passes. This dude does it better than any quarterback that I've seen at the college level. And there are just moments where I see him, especially with that 10 to 15 yard range right over the middle, perfect layering. And, to me, those are 2 really key factors, because can you get it over linebackers but under safeties? That's an NFL trait you need to have. That's why I fell in love with Brock Purdy, was that layering ability. Miller Moss has that. I just want him to be a little bit better at processing, and Lane Kiffin's offense is very, very quick, which is why I doubt he'd be the first quarterback to go. At pick number 7 for the Arizona Cardinals, defensive interior is the easy way to go. Let's think about some other ways to do this, though. Travis Hunter, we're classifying him as a wide receiver. To me, I think he should be a corner, but the money talks, man, and he is dynamic as a receiver. He'll be moving up my board most likely as a receiver. It just sucks not to be able to see him in the full form of a corner that I think he should be. But I think the writing's on the wall. It pretty much is Mason Graham at this point. You got to go defensive interior. He bounced back versus Texas, 4 pressures. Super happy for him. He's my number 1 defensive interior. People think I hate him. I don't. He literally is my number 1 defensive interior. Now, did I think he was Byron Murphy level? No. I love Byron Murphy with all my heart. I had him as a blue chip player. I only have 2 blue chip players in the class, and you could see one of them is very, very unpopular. So I do think this class is a little bit differently distributed than the last one. The last one was very top heavy, in my opinion. This one is a little bit more balanced. Mason Graham's going to be the pick, though. I just think it's the right thing to do. At pick number 8 for the Titans, I'm honestly starting to really lean heavily towards Travis Hunter, but I would be remiss not to go offensive line. I do think they need some help here, but there is offensive line on day 2. We also have trades. Got to remember that one, but also, I just don't think anybody was going to trade up for Travis Hunter as a wide receiver. There's just too many good receivers in this class. And you could pretty much argue why the Titans shouldn't take Travis Hunter at this spot is because of the quantity of receiving talent. And it's a good argument. It is a very good argument. But I don't think that you can argue yourself out of just how damn dynamic Travis Hunter is. He could be on that Jamar Chase level. He has that Jamar Chase unique movement style. But I think that he, as a wide receiver, could be really game-changing. I think he's better as a corner. But at the end of the day, you're going to go where the money goes. And the money right now is really heavily in favor of being at the wide receiver position. At pick number 9 for the Colts, well, corner seems a little bit depleted at the moment. However, it's not all lost. I do think this wouldn't be a bad idea to trade out of here because you do see some star players here. I think Malachi Starks could be a perfect stick and pick type of guy. Absolutely. But I do think we need to start referencing Ashton Jeanty as somebody who can be really game changing. Now, I love Ashton Genty. At the same time, this is a really good running back class. So you might be able to squeeze a little bit here and there in terms of, who is going to be, like, where you're going to see Ashton Genty go. I think the key player here is Malachi Starks, Tetairoa McMillan. There's not a ton of players like Tetairoa McMillan in this class, and Malachi Starks is the best defensive back because I think Nick Eamon is a pure safety. Malachi Starks has all that dynamicism that I really love. With that being said, it is a big need of the Colts to go after a very versatile defensive back, and I don't see the good enough corners here. I do have some good ones in round 2 if I need to. I'm going to stick and pick with Malachi Starks and not overthink it. At pick number 10 for the Minnesota Vikings. This is a spot where I do feel like we could try to move out of here again. This is that corner spot that, you do have some top tier. You still have a really solid quarterback sitting here in Carson Beck. And to be fair, I do think there is a little bit of a drop off. You got Drew Allar as well. Those are like the 2 quarterbacks I'd like to mention here. And I see a team like the Seahawks. I see a team like the Steelers. That could be looking for that upgrade. The Rams as well. And to be fair, the Rams are that type of team that I would love to make a ballsy move for their future at QB. I don't think that's what they'll actually do, at least at pick 10. And you guys might wonder why I'm taking more time on this. It's because I know that I get to spend 1 round to be able to talk my ass off. But I do think that you might have to pull the trigger on a corner. And it's not like the end of the world. Like, Denzel Burke is phenomenal. I do think that isn't a bad move at all. And I think it's the right move. This team needs defensive back help. But the more we move back, I could see one going right here to Tampa. I could even see some going, theoretically, corner 2. Well, Reek Woolen is making a bounce back. Well, actually, not even talking about corner 2 because you might want to classify Devin Witherspoon as a nickel. Boundary 2 still could be a position you look at with Siobhan Revell for pairing him up with Reek Woolen. So I think there's enough of a threat here to where we can look at Tacario Davis and Denzel Burke. I just think Denzel Burke's been uber reliable. He pretty much does everything perfectly, and there's not really a negative on him. He had a little bit of a sophomore slump, but he ends up rebounding at the end of the year and gets better each game. To me, that's a fighter, and that's somebody that will be successful in the NFL. That type of work ethic does translate. At pick number 11 for the Buccaneers, could go T-Mac and just say, screw it. And for the people who are going to say, oh, why are you putting them at 11? Remember, guys, I didn't say this at the beginning, so I'm going to take this on the chin. This is reverse Super Bowl odds as of right now. The debate is going on right now, so keep that in mind. Like, now, this is what, and I'm forgetting exactly where I got those odds from, but it was literally updated like an hour ago. But regardless, you could get ballsy and go, hey, we want Mike Evans 2.0 while Mike Evans is still around. I wouldn't shame it, but I do think edge rusher is proper. It makes sense. And round 2, I've realized edge rusher does kind of get a little bit on the stale side. So it's Mikael Williams, James Pierce. I'm going to give love to James Pierce. I've been giving love to Mikael Williams. James Pierce, I think, is superior, but they're completely different styles of player. You can't just say one over the other. Because Mikael Williams is 260, 270, and he brings massive explosiveness, long arms, and he's just a pure raw product. James Pierce has a higher run defense foundation. He's on the lighter side at 242, but he's still putting it together as a pure pass rusher. And I think James Pierce deserves more love than he's getting. He's kind of just that guy that's drifted off, and not many people were talking about him. And I think it's time we start talking about him again. At number 12 for the Saints, we're going T-Mac. I'll say this right now. Tetairoa McMillan posted on his story, and I'm sorry for the people who actually watch every episode because you're going to be hearing me reiterate some stories over again. But T-Mac, he ended up posting on his story because Dash Fafita, Noah Fafita, his quarterback's younger brother, ended up saying, hey, I got my first offer from Arizona. T-Mac ended up posting saying, hey, I got 2 years left. You can fact check this on my Twitter. I ended up posting a screenshot of it. But he's like, I have 2 years left. Like, come and ball pretty much. So he could theoretically be returning. If he's getting this type of hype, I highly doubt that he would. And I do think it could be a marketing ploy to try to get other schools to be like, let's go get him. But at the same time, it's still worth bringing up and mentioning. At pick 13 for the Browns, I've been going Ashton Genty every time, and I'm having a hard time saying I'm not going to go Ashton Genty. This team heavily relies on running back support. And the quarterback situation's not good. You can't draft Carson Beck here. I mean, it's just too much money allocated to that quarterback position. 80 mil dead cap. This is not a Russell Wilson type of thing where you're taking 40 mil dead cap. This is double that. And that was already massive. So it is the worst trade in history, in my opinion, especially because you can't get out of it. So you've screwed yourself over, not just like generationally in terms of draft capital wise and giving the other team other players, but you've also shot yourself in the foot. And as a Steelers fan, sure, it's like, okay, cool. At least Deshaun Watson isn't absolutely whooping my team every single game. But your team is still very solid. So how you can end up turning the table is having an elite run game. Nick Chubb's up for a contract. Ashton Genty's deserving of a top, potentially 10 pick. We saw 2 go in the top 12, higher than what we thought they should go with Bijan Robinson as well as Jahmyr Gibbs. So Ashton Genty's having a similar year to Bijan Robinson. Did it against Oregon. This could be the time for him to be going even higher, where a team like the Titans, if they wanted to get their Derrick Henry 2.0 with Ashton Genty, could do it. The Cardinals, if they wanted to get ballsy, they could do it. So just keep that in mind as well. At number 14 for the Seattle Seahawks. Sucks that I can't go after Malachi Starks. I know the DC is very much into getting his guy at safety, and we'll be getting that. Don't you worry about that. But if we're sitting here at number 14 overall, we got to understand maybe why we got here. It's probably because, A, the right side of the offensive line, especially the right tackle spot, is absolute ass cheeks. I mean, Abe Lucas can't stay healthy to save his life. And, I mean, to be fair, the guard spots, I mean, I love Anthony Bradford, so I love him to death. Same thing with Christian Haynes. I don't think either of them have fully secured and said, like, hey, I'm Pro Bowl / All-Pro level. So Emory Jones, if he fails, could add some competition there. I would say the issues that I look at is, if you're at number 14, is Geno regressing? I don't think he is. I really like Geno. But when I also see my former high school teammate Zach Charbonnet getting like 1.5 yards per carry, I start thinking that you need to boost certain parts of the offensive line. And when Charles Cross is balling out with an amazing, I think, over 90 PFF grade, and yes, PFF grade doesn't mean anything. Sorry to crap on PFF so much, but I realized in college it's a lot more translatable than the NFL. Because I'm seeing guys like Coleman Shelton, or is it Shelton Coleman? One of the two, whatever the way the Bears center arranges his name. I just know that it's like Shelton, Coleman. But he ended up getting trucked over and getting absolutely whooped, and the dude had like a higher grade than some offensive linemen that I thought did much better than he did. So I'll keep, like, regardless of that, Emory Jones is going to be my pick here. I think he exemplifies Seattle. I mean, at the same time, it kind of makes sense because Anthony Bradford's also on that line from LSU, but he's a feisty blocker. I think he gets too nose over the toes, and that could be an issue. Same thing with arm length. Some people think he could be a guard, but I also do believe in him as a tackle possible player. So I really do think he could be that. At 14, it's worth the roll of the dice. At pick 15 for the Steelers, you could talk about Luther Burden here. I would be worried about the height of our receiving core outside of George Pickens. I think that you'd be relying on somebody to be sub 5'10 or sub 5'11, since Luther Burden's 5'10. And, you know, for guys like Justin, theoretically, if he's our quarterback, that might be a little bit difficult for somebody who I really think thrives with being able to throw the big time plays and maybe not be the most pinpoint placement, but being able to get it where it's catchable for the bigger guys. I love that connection that he has with George Pickens. But as much hyping as I'm doing for Justin Fields, I still think that you stick to your strengths. I think Dante Jackson should be re-signed. I'm praying to God he stays healthy. I think everybody, including like the Panthers fans who lost him, want him to stay healthy. I mean, that's just a human right there. That, like, it's a human trait to want others to not be hurt, right? Like, if you want someone to get hurt, then, you know, I know that there's some animosity there. Like back when Tom Brady was beating everybody, it's like, damn, like I wish that he'd like hurt his leg or something. He'd be out for a couple games, or like, oh, he'd tweak his ankle and then he'd be out for the game. Like, I never got along with that, man. I never was with that. That's just not my type of style. Like, if you can't beat them when they're healthy, then you deserve to lose. That's my mindset. So, you know, if you do ever wish ill upon a player to get hurt, like physically, like, just be a little bit more human, please. Just for yourself. But I digress. I think we're going to bring back Dante Jackson. I'm going to be super excited for that. I don't know if we're at 15, we're bringing back Justin as like the guy. I definitely think we're going to bring in some competition. And that competition I'm bringing is Drew Allar. So it's Drew Allar, Carson Beck. Those are my next best quarterbacks, by the way. It's Dylan Gabriel, Carson Beck, and Drew Allar. And Drew Allar fits Pittsburgh way better than all of those guys, in my opinion. Dylan Gabriel, he's just not somebody who I think will be drafted in this range. Probably be a third-round pick, but still a very, very good one at that. He's sub 6 foot. That's just what happens, man. But Drew Allar has gotten better and better. Now, he is far from there, but if he can end up limiting his passes that just are nowhere near the mark, which have gotten substantially less since last year, this guy is Josh Allen-esque. And you got to remember, when Josh Allen came into the league, he was missing passes a lot. He had a big arm. And how he ended up adjusting that was by fixing his form. Now, I remember Trey Lance coming into the league. I thought his mechanics were not great. And unfortunately, he's failed. But everyone was saying, oh, well, he's coming in just like Josh Allen. Great athlete, big arm, just needs to work on those mechanics. And it was like, okay, well, you can't just say they're going to happen. Josh Allen was an exception, not the rule. Now, something I love about Drew Allar is I do follow some coaches online that do quarterback development. One of them has been working with Drew Allar, and I think the backup for Penn State as well. And you get to see Drew Allar's progression since high school, I think since middle school as well. And he's had a crap throw motion. You look back on what it used to be, it's like, oh my God, it's leagues better. So he has a proven track record of self-improvement. And to me, even when Jalen Hurts came into the league, I'm like, that dude's a good worker. That guy has self-improvement. When Anthony Richardson came in, that was my claim for him to be my QB2. Now, I should have swapped QB1 at QB3, but let's throw that conversation out for another day. I love players that work on themselves. Drew Allar's not there yet, but the fact that he's worked so hard and has made already all that progress shows to me that when he gets to the next level, he's going to continue developing at that rate, if not even more when you have actual professional coaches. And that to me is a boast of confidence. You guys know Drew Allar, preseason, QB 17 for me. This is a genuine, not forced love for Drew Allar to my team, the Steelers. At pick number 16 for the Jaguars, I'm rushing to the podium. Kelvin Banks is on the board. Left tackle, theoretically, you could say, oh, why didn't you go for him at 14? Emory Jones is a right tackle, and also he's higher on my board. Kelvin Banks is still 6'4". He's 320 pounds. He's a beast, so he technically could kick into guard, but I do think he's a tackle. I think the Jaguars definitely need it based on the tackle contracts that are up. At 17 for the Chargers, Luther Burden's going to be hard to say no to. This team's doing damn well, especially compared to what we thought they'd be doing. But I also want to give a shout out to Quinshon Judkins here. He had over like 190 yards on 7 carries and 2 touchdowns, or I think it was 9 carries, and he had 7 missed tackles forced. Unbelievable. Yes, it wasn't versus the best team. I think it was Akron this past week. But at the same time, that's like legendary status. And he is so smart. I find it hard for Harbaugh to pass on a talent like this in the first because I just feel like it's up his alley. At the same time, I will be boring. It's going to be either Luther Burden or else it's going to be Colson Loveland. It's one of the two. And I do think this tight end class was a little bit overhyped in the preseason. We got excited about Delp. Delp hasn't done jack. Lucky Lawson is the guy who's, or Lawson Lucky, excuse me, is the guy who's doing better than he is. So he's kind of down. And even my boy right there, who I still haven't moved. I keep saying I'm going to move him, but I wait for all 22 grades to move these guys. Mitchell Evans, he hasn't done jack either. So there's plenty of opportunity that has been missed so far on the tight end class. Colson Loveland has been the guy who's been uber reliable. So we're going to go Colson Loveland here at pick 17. At pick 18 for the Atlanta Falcons, I really want to go Luther Burden. At the same time, I don't think they're going to go offense in the first round again. I think Mikael Williams being on the board, coming from Georgia, you got Athens to Atlanta. It just makes a ton of sense, and he brings that explosiveness that you're kind of looking for, that Matt Judon build of somebody who has that physicality. It's going to be the guy that you want to train up, and hopefully, forgetting if you paid Matt Judon yet, but if you haven't, pay him. I mean, just do it. You guys have been looking for edge rush help forever, and let him be the mentor that Mikael Williams really needs. At pick 19 for the Bears, hard to pass on Luther Burden. You're looking right now at, luckily it's week to week. But I think it was a knee injury for Rome Odunze. Like Rome, hopefully he gets back and is thriving once again. Super excited for him to get back. But Keenan Allen's not there for the long haul, guys. Like, you still will need someone in the slot, and I think Luther Burden might be perfect for that. Is it ideal for you to, like, pass on offensive line, pass on pass rusher? I love Gerald Taylor, by the way. Re-sign that dude right now. Just do yourself a favor. Re-sign his ass before it actually gets expensive. Make him think that you're giving him more than what you would, so he signs it. And, I mean, that sounds a little shady, but do yourself the favor. I mean, that dude belongs on the Bears. He's hyped up. He's doing such a damn good job. I mean, like, I'm so happy for you guys and for him. But to me, I'm looking at Luther Burden pretty heavily here. And we have a lot of picks as well. Like, look at this. We have pick 83 as well. So I'm going to be going Luther Burden. Go best player available. You want to invest in your offense? Invest in your freaking offense, man. Go for it. I picked 20 for the Green Bay Packers. It's a spot where you can choose a lot of routes, and you can't really go wrong. Now, deep down, I really want this team to go after a wide receiver 1, but I also love the idea of getting someone who's physical with great ball skills, and that's Javon Revell, 6'3", 193, press man, just like your DC likes it from BC, and you know what? We're going to give him to you. I mean, it's a smaller school player that has great upside, 6'3", 193, and he has solid athleticism and good length. And I just think he needs to work a little bit more on the finer details, but who better to do that than, who better to coach him up in that regard than Jair Alexander? He's a little bit lower on my board. I think he's in the 70s range, but that might sound scary to you. You also got to look at the amount of corners that are available. Also, these guys are all getting reevaluated too, especially guys like Davison Igbendison, who I absolutely adore, but it's not a very popular adoration for that mark. But still, Javon Revell is the popular choice. I like to blend my board with realism, or the consensus at the moment. Pick number 21 for the Los Angeles Rams. Quarterback's the right way to go. I mean, Quinn Ewers could be the pick for the Rams, and I don't think that's a bad choice. And I do think that the talent for quarterback kind of slips off a little bit. So if you're not going to be going Quinn Ewers, the option is Carson Beck. And Carson Beck is someone who's going to keep an offense in motion. He's going to keep it in rhythm, and he's going to make it a really reliable offense. And he's my next best quarterback available. And the Rams ended up going after a worse version of Carson Beck that's already on the roster in Stetson Bennett. And Stetson Bennett is great to have as a third-string quarterback who has really worked his ass off, and he's set for life on money, and I'm super happy for him. If he doesn't act like an idiot and waste all of it, I digress. Quarterback seems like the logical choice for the Rams, so I'm going to be going Carson Beck here, especially since he fell into their lap. It's a low-risk move at 21 that you get to have a potentially very high reward. At pick 22 for the Miami Dolphins, defensive interior certainly there on the mind, but for me, I'm going to be going after defensive back. And Billy Bowman, Kevin Winston, two guys I really do like. But I'm going to stand up for the guy who I fell in love with the most. He's my number 14 player in the class. Nick Eamon-Wari had a pick 6 this past week. He got a 91 defensive grade. And he's 6'3", 227 pounds. And we'll be running a 4.3 40, if not a 4.2. This guy is built differently than everybody else. And I think that pairing him up with Javon Holland is the right move. It is the honorable move. You are doing yourself a disservice if you do not give someone like Nick Eamon-Wari a chance to really show out with the talent that you have in your secondary. At pick 23 for the Cincinnati Bengals, defensive interior was brought up as a potential issue to be able to be fixed, and I do definitely see that as something that you could be working on. Looking at the bigger receivers, I do really like the idea of Bo Collins to this team. Alec Iomaner, absolutely. Emeka Ibuka should be on that list. But I think in round 2, we might be able to do that. I actually really like the idea of going after defensive interior here and getting some power on that defensive interior with Tyleik Williams. I know there's a couple teams past this that certainly would like to use Tyleik that you'll be facing in the AFC Championship. So it's a good way to have a little bit of a change of pace here and get yourself a good star. At pick number 24 for the New York Jets, quarterback could be the position you go after. However, I do see now that bigger bodied receiver who has good contested catch ability might be the guy that you really, really want. And Jaden Higgins is that for me. But at the same time, you can go Alec Iomaner. You could also go Bo Collins, my number 10 player in the class. Those guys are all exceptional at the contested catch. And Jalen Royals as well. Got to give him a shout out. Which means you could wait to 56. But I also know I want to take these guys. I'm going to go Jaden Higgins. I'm going to call it. He's the only thing that's really working besides Knoll on Iowa State's offense. So I'm going to be giving him the love. Jaden Higgins is that physical receiver that's perfect to replace Mike Evans. Might irritate some people, but he's my number 3 player in the class. I really do love what he brings to the table. Pick number 25 for the Bills. Io Mainers, my instant gut reaction based on what's available, but Kevin Winston, far from a bad choice. I do think that wide receiver might be more available at 42 than safety. I'm just going to be calling it right now. We're going to go Kevin Winston here at 25. At 26 for the Dallas Cowboys, a lot of really enticing options. I still think a running back needs to be on your mind, but when you have top tier receiver talent, when you also, looking at what's coming down, who's going to be selected next, Harold Perkins definitely is going to be going either to the Texans or to the Eagles. You better pray that the Texans would be the ones to jump on that. I also think the Cowboys need to be looking at receiver. I can see potentially the Ravens going after it, but, there will be some receiving talent down the board. I love Isaiah Bond, but we can also get Matt Golden in round 2, and Matt Golden's been a stud for UT. Great teammates, by the way. I was calling it earlier. It's like such a stud duo. Running back Quinshon Judkins is very hard to pass on. Very, very hard, because he's going to be the identity of that offense. And makes it kind of nice when you don't have to worry about that. I know it's going to irritate people, but I do think that there kind of now is a clear-cut top 2. And I'll wait for Trevor Etienne to have some more time, but he's still not the style of back to the Cowboys to look after. If you want you can't even call it value brand. If you want to go from Central Market, which Texans it's pretty much our version of a Whole Foods, or you want to go from the Erewhon to the Whole Foods for the Californians out there. Basically you're going from Ashton Genty to Quinshon Judkins. You're going for the creme de la creme to still one half of a tier down from creme de la creme. I freaking love Quinshon Judkins. Pick number 27 for the Texans though. Defense interior, probably the primary focus. Dale Walker he's a nose, and same thing with Kenneth. But you still technically can use Kenneth based on his play style, and same thing with Dayon. But I just don't really see them being actually worth those picks in terms of what they're putting out on the field right now. And unfortunately, that's probably the position I'll be going. I'll be reaching on those positions. But other positions I would love to look at. Just deep down, can you just imagine what would happen if Harold Perkins got to be used properly in a system where you could let him be coached up by Danielle Hunter? You can also have Christian Harris in there. D'Amico Ryans kind of molding him into a super weapon. I would love that to death, but I am going to be going after defensive interior here. I don't think the talent that they're putting out on the field right now is worth it. But Kenneth Grant brings the foot speed. He is also someone who can bat passes, batted one. That still ended up getting caught, but still somebody that brings, even when he's losing, that ability to still impact the play. And he has a great motor. I love Kenneth Grant in terms of the motor. He's a dude who I want on my team, so I'll be willing to reach for him at 27. At 28 for the Baltimore Ravens, offensive line's the place to go. And Arianti Urzuri probably is going to be my vote of confidence. You got Marcus Bowe here, who he's friend of the show, came on the show this past week. But, to me, Arianti Urzuri will play guard until he can replace Stanley as a tackle. And this system fits it, man. He's a lot better than Daniel Failele. So I think that's a move that I think I would be very scared of if any of the teams past this ended up getting their hands on him. Pick number 29, though, the Detroit Lions. It's going to be edge rusher. It's going to be, technically, if you had a bigger receiver like Bo Collins, not a bad idea here, but it's going to be edge rusher. It's going to be guard. Those are the two positions I really want to look at. You got Jaden Roberts here, but classified as a tackle is Tyler Booker. And Tyler Booker just makes too much sense. Super reliable, high floor, really big dude. Even though he's down to 325, I think it's just because he's testing out what it's like to be a tackle. And I don't know if he's going to be a tackle. I have him listed as offensive line, but I don't think it's a bad thing that he can play both. And I think that he'll be a really big asset as a guard. At 30 for the Philadelphia Eagles, it really is edge rusher. It really is tight end. Those are the two positions. And tight end, I already went on it earlier. I do think Tyler Warren, if he continues playing the way he does, could sneak into the first. He is that good of a talent. And I've taken him to the Eagles now a couple of times. Edge rusher is the other position. Harold Perkins is here. And Harold Perkins fits exactly what Fangio is probably going to be looking for from his edge. He can cover, he has speed, and, I know that Nolan also kind of possesses those traits, but at the same time, I think Harold Perkins is better than Nolan Smith. So I'm going to be going Harold Perkins here. At pick number 31 for the San Francisco 49ers, they're a team that certainly could be looking for an infusion of juice into that secondary. It's a team that will just continue to be great regardless, but at the same time, I'm going to give a friend of the show, Marcus Bowe, what he exactly wanted, and that's a mentor in Trent Williams. So Marcus is not listed on here. He's my number 7 player in the class. He's right tackle for Purdue, redshirt junior. We're going to use Xavier Truss as the placeholder. So again, Marcus Bowe, my number 7 player in the class. And at number 32 for the Kansas City Chiefs, you can go Dalen Walker here, and that'd be absolutely ridiculous. But Dalen Walker has an Achilles heel, so to speak, and I mean, he literally does, but metaphorically, his Achilles heel is, it really comes down to his pad level, and it's just not great. But I also want to potentially move out of this spot because I have Tacario Davis here, and I really love Tacario. I kind of want him to go. And yes, you could talk about some quarterbacks here as well. Like Quinn Ewers at the end of the first could make a lot of sense for a team that ended up missing out on one in the first, but it is a big jump for any of those teams that could end up sitting and waiting. So the players that I think could be moved up for, though, Isaiah Bond is an absolute stud. I think the Chiefs could be in the market for even another weapon. But like Tacario Davis is the guy that I'm really talking about here. I think there is a big drop-off based on the consensus guys. I obviously have Big Benison, Prysock, and Thomas up very, very high. But Tacario Davis is that guy who's almost a consensus first-round pick. And I do think a team like the Panthers that just traded back and ended up getting really, really good compensation and who hasn't gotten their top-tier corner, they very well might want to be able to create this duo right here. And again, it's super short range. So I do think the Chiefs would be very wise to make this move. I think it would cost 137. You could mess around with this all you want, guys. You can mess around with it all you want. I'm going to make a move up with Carolina so they can get their corner of the future here into Tacario Davis, 6'4", and really, really, really good ball skills. And that's super duper key to pair him up with JC Horn. But that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for day 2 tomorrow. I love you. See you on the far side. Peace.